Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. As always, it's great to have you. Today is going to be a fun one because it's going to be the start to a brand new segment here in the Cabral Concept, a brand new show. So oftentimes on Thursdays has kind of become my anything goes show. I'll talk about a training Thursday on exercise. I'll talk about toxicity. I might bring you some research. But what I want to do, at least for the beginning of this new year, is share on a new topic. One that I've said is going to be coming over the last couple of years. I've been talking about this in the Cabral Concept, that we're going to be moving more into the longevity and anti-age-based information space. One of the reasons why I'm so excited about this is that this is a new frontier in terms of medicine and overall health. And we are learning so much about it every single year. So my job in 2022, I should say now, and that is going to be to bring you a lot of this information. Take the science, see what we've looked at, see what's been well researched, and share with you this and what you can do in the real world. But I also don't want to forget our roots back in Ayurvedic medicine as well as traditional Chinese medicine, where there are still many secrets to be discovered there as well. So I'll talk about that. Today, though, I want to give you the straight science. I want to share with you exactly why we age and what we can do about it. So I'll be doing the book review tomorrow, but the book review is actually on the science and technology of growing young. And this one's by Sergey Young. Again, I'll talk about this tomorrow. I'm just going to take a little excerpt, 2 pages out of this book, just really teach you about it, because there are 9, I wouldn't say the equations, but there's 9 factors that lead to faster or slower aging. And one of the things that, again, that's amazing about this, and I'm going to pull it together at the end, is they really all flow out of one specific breakdown in our body. And that is why I'm excited about this, because if we can figure out this one, well, we're going to be able to dramatically slow down aging, but also greatly increase the lifespan of humans. Just keep in mind, we are living longer now. Well, we'll put it this way. Based on if you don't die from one of the top 4 causes of mortality, and I've spoken about this before, right? The heart disease, the high blood pressure and strokes, type 2 diabetes, and cancer, you very well can live to your late 80s as your normal lifespan, okay? So 88 years old or so instead of 75 or 78 years old. So that is pretty straightforward now, pretty established. But what we're now finding, though, is that every 10 years, humans, on average, again, not dying from one of those top 4 causes, and that's getting less and less as well, just again through medications though, is we can add 1 or 2 years every 10 years. So what I see though is a exponential surge in anti-aging and longevity research, because it's being funded to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars a year by interested investors who, of course, want to extend their own life, right? There's the X Prize, Peter Diamandis and others that have one for longevity. What can you do in order to not just live longer, but actually age reverse biology? I think we're going to see some really fascinating things take place by the year 2030. I absolutely believe that. I'm not talking about downloading our consciousness up to the cloud and then living in the metaverse. I'll talk about that maybe on a different show. What I'm talking about is real biology. Really be able to use stem cell therapy and other things in order to be able to reverse using some genetic engineering. That's in the future. That is not the close near term, but actually be able to, again, turn back aging and at least live longer. So I think most of our goal, people listening to this right now, should be to live to, I would say, 100 years. I really believe that. I think that that's very doable. In this book, they make an argument for 120 to 150 years. I don't see the 150 years quite yet, but we'll talk about that because there could be an absolute explosion of discoveries over the next 10 years that then allows us to essentially double our lifespan. Because remember, men typically age of mortality is around 75, at least in the US, women about 78. So if we had doubled our lifespan, something dramatic would have to happen. I don't see that on the horizon quite yet, but I absolutely do believe that we can go from a healthy 80-something years old to adding another decade to 15 years. I definitely believe that. Now, my big thing is this. Great to live to 100, but not if you're not able to live the life that you want after the age of like 70, 75. So my thing is always going to be about quality of life. We're going to talk about that, and it starts now. So no matter what age you are right now, the more you do now in order to be able to take care of your body, the longer you most likely will live. So let's go over these factors in aging, and then I'll give you a little bit of color commentary to what they actually mean in the real world. All right. So the first one is this: genomic instability. So I'm just going to read this. This is page 38 and 39 of the book. And then again, I'll review this whole book tomorrow. So you probably learned in high school that the genes in your body, your genome, are made of strands of DNA, the double helix shaped material that serves as the master plan for all of your characteristics and functions. You may also remember that DNA copies itself during cell division, and that mutations sometimes occur due to natural error or exposure to radiation or other toxic influences from inside or outside your body. Some of those mutations work out to be essential for adaptation of species, but many mutations and other types of damage to genes result in disease and a loss of normal function. All right, so the first one's pretty straightforward. We essentially have DNA in our cells. The DNA has to replicate in order for the new cell, right, that's created every couple days if we're talking about enterocytes, or every 9 to 120 days if we're talking about all of our red blood cells, right? So we have 40 trillion cells, give or take, right, inside of our body. We need to know how those cells should replicate. And over time, which we'll talk about on the next one, what can happen is there's often poor replication of that DNA. There's missing pieces, and that leads to weaker cells and aging, right? So what we need to do is figure out, how do we improve DNA replication? And we do know so many nutrients that are needed for that, and we know that we need to decrease inflammation as well. All right. So the second one goes right along with genome, right? Right along with your genetics. Telomere attrition. As we discussed earlier in the chapter, telomeres, those plastic tips on the end of shoelaces, that's how I describe the analogy as well, help protect and bind chromosomes at their ends, where they're more fragile and susceptible to damage. The problem is these telomeres tend to get shorter and shorter over time, as a chromosome is replicated more and more times until the plastic tips no longer protect the shoelace from fraying and unraveling. And as you might guess, that degradation leads to more genomic instability. All right, so basically at the end of your DNA strand, so picture it as almost like that fish sign, old school fish sign, right? Like at the ends, picture the two shoelaces, okay? Those end caps have that plastic coating. And the plastic coating over time gets worn out, just like your shoelaces on your shoes if you run a lot or you exercise with them a lot. And then when that happens, the DNA replication inside the cells, the DNA is not able to replicate as well as it had in the past. So we don't know. So it's very interesting because a lot of people used to attribute the shorter the telomeres, the faster aging. But it could be, because we don't know for sure, the faster aging, then it decreases the telomeres. So there's definitely a correlation with the telomeres on your DNA. We just don't know if the shortening of the telomeres increases aging, right? Speed of aging, or if the speed of aging is decreasing the telomeres at the end of your DNA. So it's very interesting to look at it. I have a couple theories back and forth on this. And I'll talk about those a little bit more towards the end. And I'm going to be doing many anti-aging shows. So keep in mind, there's a whole category in anti-aging. You can find that at today's show, which is stephencabral.com/2169. We'll link to all the previous anti-aging shows because I don't believe it's one thing. Meaning like, okay, let's say we were able to create some type of, we already know the nutritional supplements that help improve telomere length. I've talked about those. I'll talk about those more in the future. Actually, why don't I make a note for that? So I'm going to talk about telomere increasing So natural supplements that help with that, okay? But let's just say that we were able to create a magic pill, a drug, or whatever that kept your telomeres strong. Would you then never age? No, because the genes, the DNA is not the only thing that causes aging. So I just want you to know that just like Alzheimer's, where there's 25 points, there's multiple points to aging. All right, so number 3 is this: epigenetic alterations. Around your genes are assemblies of carbon and hydrogen atoms called methyl groups that act as chemical traffic lights, turning genes on and off by allowing or blocking their interactions with proteins that they normally send out to do their bidding. This system of chemical and protein interaction with your genes is part of the epigenome. The epigenome ensures that the work of your genes is done correctly, but it also malfunctions over time, leading to underexpression, incorrect expression, or complete failure of some genes. Today, longevity scientists believe epigenetic changes to be one of the most important hallmarks of aging. All right, well, you've heard me talk about epigenetics before, because it doesn't just affect aging, it affects disease and overall wellness in the body. So we know that, for example, me at 17 years old, I got extremely sick. My body was not able to process the amount of inflammation in my body, regulate the immune cells in my body, and much more. So we can have, and then, so what happened at that point? Well, then my genetics express themselves through what's called epigenetics, right? So that's when I ended up with the autoimmune issues. I ended up with Addison's disease, POTS, encephalomyelitis, all sorts of wild allergies, and many more issues, right? So type 2 diabetes. So that is epigenetics, okay? All of those things are able to be expressed in my genes. But now I'm 25 years older, at least, somewhere around there, and I don't have any of those diseases anymore. I'm disease-free. So why is that? Well, epigenetics allows it to go both ways depending on the overall health of your body. All right. But it does allow for the expression of those genes. And if those genes aren't healthy, if that DNA isn't healthy, if those telomeres are wearing down, okay, we have bad expression of genes, right? Called single nucleotide polymorphisms, SNPs. All right. So the next one is this: loss of proteostasis. A system of proteins carries out all the instructions for your genes throughout the body. They build up, synthesize, or break down, catabolize all the substances your body needs to function, leaving just enough extra protein in and around the cell to be available for the next round of instructions. As we age, however, the cell's ability to maintain a balance or stasis of these proteins begins to fail, usually resulting in excess protein garbage that interferes with normal function and manifests in symptoms of aging. All right, this one's pretty easy and self-explaining once you think of it a different way. Proteostasis doesn't sound that normal, right? But if you think about it, let's think about it in terms of, let's think about it in terms of like computer coding. If you've ever seen like a text page of all the code for a website, I'm not sure if you have or not. There can be all sorts of extraneous code and junk in there. And when you go to publish a blog or a Word page or whatever, everything on the page is just jumbled. There's extra code in there that shouldn't be in there. You're missing maybe just one, I'll just say like spacer in that, and then it throws everything off. Well, what happens is your body uses building blocks, right? So with those building blocks, you're stacking them up in the proper order. But if one's out of place, you put two where two shouldn't be, it throws off the entire sequence. And you can still build that big block tower if you want, but it isn't as strong and it isn't as solid as it should be. So what happens is, again, we're going back to the replication of cells, but we're also going through the building blocks of cells, which are those proteins, right? So this is important. This is why having the right amount of amino acids in your diet is important. The right amount of vitamins, minerals, fatty acids are important because those are the building blocks for your body. Too many, okay, things go bad, right? We have excess. Too little, you can't rebuild the body. So it's always finding that equilibrium. Number 5 is this: deregulated nutrient sensing. For millions of years, the biggest problem facing most living organisms was finding enough food to survive. As a result, the cells in your body possess mechanisms for sensing the availability or scarcity of essential nutrients, and then choosing to build up or break down proteins according to the availability of resources. With age, however, this sensing system begins to go a little haywire, sometimes resulting in excess or inappropriate synthesis of or catabolize of proteins. Okay, so this one's interesting. I think that this could be explained a little bit better as well. So it's not just the inability to sense the nutrients that you're taking in, it's actually coming from weaker digestion as you get older. So we know that we produce less stomach acid as we get older. And again, I'm not talking about acid imbalances in the stomach and heartburn and GERD and indigestion. That's a totally different topic, and that's an imbalance. And I've done many shows on that as well, which you can search at stephencabral.com/podcast. Just type in acid reflux or GERD or indigestion or gastritis, and you'll be able to find those shows. So here's the thing though. You can take in protein, carbs, fats. As you get older, your body just doesn't break them down as well. That's a big part of the issue. So nutrient sensing, sure, we know that we need them, but we are not able to process them in terms of enzymes, right? Pancreatic enzymes, hydrochloric acid in the stomach, pepsin in the stomach, and bile being produced by the liver, dropped into the small intestine. All of that is just typically weaker as we get older. That's why we need more maybe betaine HCl or digestive enzymes or bitters or things of that nature. Really important. It's also why after the age of 60, really right around 60, there's no set age, but right around there, the body actually requires more protein as you get older, not less, because it needs to actually be able to get more of those amino acids for the catabolic nature, the breaking down nature, the vata stage of life as we become weaker as we get older. Okay. Number 6 is this: mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria are organelles in almost all cells. They have their own DNA and serve as the power plants of the body, breaking down nutrients like sugar and fat, turning them into energy, probably in part due to a shortage of a substance called nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD. Some mitochondria fail with age, refusing to produce energy and correlating with a wide variety of diseases. Whether mitochondria turn out to be the primary driver of aging or not, it is now clear they play a critical role in chronic disease and many other aspects of aging. As a result, the mitochondria are a major focus of the research and most longevity scientists. I agree with that. I believe, and again, I'll be talking about this more next week. We've got a big release and surprise over at Equilife based on all of our research and of course, building off of brilliant researchers like Dr. David Sinclair and many others right down the road in Cambridge, Massachusetts. But I'll tell you this. One of the reasons why the mitochondria is so important is they are the drivers of energy in the body. So if your body becomes weaker and weaker over time, everything becomes weaker. Your brain, your nervous system, your immune system, you need energy for life. And just think about it, again, you're using a flashlight. What happens with a flashlight when the batteries are running low? The light is dimmer, right? You still have a flashlight. It works. It's just dim. It's getting dimmer, dimmer, and dimmer. Same with the car. Like if your battery's low in your car, same thing. Everything's dimmer. And so what happens is the mitochondria, it might go from, let's just say 1,000 mitochondria per cell. Well, by the time you're getting into your later 50s and 60s, you might be down to a couple hundred and then less. And people get less and less because they're also not exercising with weights and strength training, which we know help build up mitochondria. They're not doing sauna. They're not doing any type of cold-based therapy. And so it does not allow for this mitochondrial biogenesis. They're not getting the right nutrients. They're not getting even aerobic-based exercise for oxygen in the mitochondria. They're not getting the right nutritional supplements, right? Because we know how to build mitochondria. We do. They just mentioned it, nicotinamide mononucleotide, building block for NAD, transresveratrol, L-carnitine, PQQ. All of these are known to help build up mitochondria. But why are mitochondria also so important? They help regulate inflammation. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Number 7, cellular senescence. Nothing lasts forever, and that goes for cells too. After dividing a number of times in correlation with the rate of telomere shortening, cells deteriorate and die. Normally, they are catabolized and cleared out by the immune system to make way for fresh cells to take their place. But sometimes these cells hang on as zombies, causing inflammation and other problems that are now believed to aggravate and accelerate the process of aging. And this is absolutely true. This is why we use proteolytic enzymes in our practice, which cleans up the blood, essentially, of these senile cells that are broken down and they're basically just necrotic tissue, dead tissue hanging around. And this is going to be a big one because not a lot of people are using proteolytic enzymes. I first learned about them from a lot of great doctors. Is it Donald William Kelly or William Donald Kelly, a great doctor with natural cancer-based research. One of his proteges, Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez, used a lot of proteolytic enzymes. I learned from them. Both are now deceased. And again, I'm not treating cancer. We're not talking about that here today. We're talking about overall health. And we use a lot of proteolytic enzymes in our practice. And again, we'll be sharing more of what we do next week too. But inflammation is caused by, again, a lot of these proteins and other baggage floating around in the bloodstream that you do need to get rid of. So huge fan of that. Number 8 is stem cell exhaustion. Stem cells are special cells that can develop into any other type, from skin cells to muscle cells to brain cells, according to overall organism construction, and repair damaged tissues. In most tissues, stem cells normally execute this magic transformation every few days. But as we get older, reserve stem cells become depleted or damaged and generate new cells more slowly, if at all. That means damaged cells are replaced less frequently, resulting in the signs of aging. Yeah, this is true as well. I really do believe that stem cell therapy, although illegal in terms of general intravenous stem cells in the United States, will eventually become legalized. It's legal right now in other countries around the world. And it is essentially, I believe it can be overdone. So I do believe that it could result in some serious negative consequences if overdone, and there's going to be there's going to be trial and error for sure in this. But again, I'm not saying that any one of you should be the guinea pig for this, but we know stem cells work great. And I was close to getting them for my shoulder when I tore my labrum about a year and a half ago. I decided not to, and just to continue to rehab it on my own. I'm very fortunate that I was able to rehab it completely. But I would not be against injecting stem cells as well as PRP that I've talked about before, plasma-rich platelets, cell therapy, into my shoulder joint in order to repair it to a faster degree, because those undifferentiated stem cells could then create new tissue in the shoulder where I needed the repair. So I'm a believer in this. Do we need more science, research, testing behind it? 100%, but I'm a believer, and there's already so much research going on. Again, tens to hundreds of millions of dollars by a lot of Silicon Valley investors that are actually using themselves as guinea pigs and doing their own intravenous stem cell therapy. All right, number 9 is this: altered intracellular communication. Senescent, I never pronounced that correctly. Cells that do not get cleared out tend to become inflamed and are known to secrete substances that encourage neighboring cells to become senescent or inflamed as well. Left unchecked, this creates a cascade of intracellular communication problems that lead to bone fragility, muscle weakness, skin degradation, and other symptoms. Okay, so all of this is true, and you have to think about it like this. Okay, if you have a bathtub and someone takes a bath and the water is now dirty, anything dropped into that tub is going to get dirty as well, not clean. So if you have cells bathing in it was called the interstitial milieu inside of the blood, and that is, we'll call it dirty blood, filled with other debris, and there are immune cells going in, cytokines, everything to try to clean things up, well, they can be damaged in all the cleaning, right? So think of it this way. A street sweeper goes by and you're on the crosswalk. Oh, sorry, you're on the sidewalk and you're standing right near the street sweeper. Even though they're doing the cleaning, you're getting sprayed with all of that dirt and sand and all of that, right? So you don't want to be directly in line where all this cleanup is going on. So this one I agree with. It can cause apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. But really what you need to do is go one step down the line and actually help these cells, which was on number 7, before they get to that point, so that it's just normal. It's not absolutely overwhelming amount of cells breaking down through a faster stage of catabolysis. So what I would say to you is this: when we look at all of these 9 factors, they are controllable for the most part. Can we completely stop aging? No, I have seen nothing that allows us to completely stop aging. Even when I look at and I read the old research of traditional Chinese medicine with TCM herbalists and traditional naturopaths, the natural hygienists, and I read about the Ayurvedic Vajas, the Ayurvedic doctors and yogis, there's a lot of, I wouldn't even say evidence, but there's at least some good anecdotal evidence that they were able to live for well over 100 maybe even 150 years. There's one potentially true story of a TCM herbalist living close to 200 years. There's documented, what they say, evidence in China from birth certificate to death certificate for this herbalist. I've learned quite a bit about what he was doing through fast and using specific herbs. I don't know if that story is true. That's really hard. Obviously, that will never be able to be corroborated, to my opinion. It's an interesting story, though. We'll put it that way. And I think it just can give us a lot of hope as to maybe there's a few things that have been forgotten over the years that potentially could help us as well. But what I'll say is this, is that it comes down to an increase in just normal human metabolism. Every single day as we get older, we eat, we breathe, we exercise, we move. All of these things take cellular respiration. They take energy, metabolism, thermogenesis, just to regulate our body temperature. And all of this has a byproduct called oxidation. This oxidation creates free radicals. Free radicals need to be squelched. And when they're not squelched and the oxidation becomes rampant, we get a lot of inflammation. The inflammation then begins to break down our mitochondria. The mitochondria then produce less energy. We can't regulate what's called our nervous system, immune system, and endocrine system, our hormones. And that can lead to faster aging in both body and brain as well. So that is my theory behind it right now. I truly believe that. I really do. I think that we're going to see a lot of breakthroughs in this area. And honestly, I'm excited. I really am. This is a field that I'm going to be teaching on for the next 30 to 40 years, I would say minimum. And I'm excited for the ride because more and more of my work is going to move in this direction in at least the next 2 to 3 years. So hopefully this was helpful. I would love to take your anti-aging questions and turn them into podcasts in the future. So feel free to leave them right on YouTube below this video. If you're not watching the YouTube videos, head on over to Stephen Cabral, just my name with a PH. Subscribe, like the video. We'd love to have you. Hit the notification bell. And then, of course, on Instagram, too, you can leave your ideas for future anti-aging videos, longevity videos as well. Okay, that is it. And again, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's show. And I'm sure you probably heard the intro to the show. But if you didn't, I just want to reiterate that after years of planning and trying to get to this stage, I'm so excited to announce Equilife is now going to be offering free at-home lab testing. Yes, free. That means you're going to be able to start with our $299 minerals and metals test, where you learn about your stress levels, your electrolytes, all the minerals that we're looking at in your body. We're looking at trace minerals and heavy metals as well. We're going to look for lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and also aluminum. You're also going to get a readout of what your results mean because you're going to be getting a 30-minute coaching consultation just one-on-one with you and one of our Equilife coaches. Plus, you're going to get a personalized plan built just for you. It honestly doesn't get any better than this. It truly doesn't, and this is why I'm doing it. I told my team that if we can find a way to just break even, not even make any money, I want to be able to get these labs to people. That was my whole goal because it was life-changing for me at 19 years old. It introduced me to functional medicine and integrative health, and I want to do the same for you as well. So when you head on over to stephencabral.com/shop, you're going to see a banner right there. Click on the banner. It's going to teach you more about our Iuboan membership rewards program. This is for people that see the value in using good quality nutritional supplements on a monthly basis. All it takes is basically using the daily nutritional support or the daily activated multivitamin and then a vitamin C product or a magnesium or an omega-3, whatever you like. Again, most people are using at least 2 to 3 different products. Why not use those same 2 to 3? You can get them through Equilife, an extra 15% off on subscription, and we'll ship you a new at-home lab test every 3 months on us. Every 90 days on subscription, we will be shipping you a free at-home lab test. I'm telling you right now, I've been looking forward to doing this for years, didn't know how I can make it happen, and this is it. So super excited about this. Check out all the details at stephencabral.com/shop and just email us with any questions. Take care, everyone.